I am now. Welcome back, everyone, to the Standing Committee on the Economy. I'm Colleen Young, chairing the meeting this evening, and we have sitting in for Jennifer Bowes, Mr. Trent Weatherspoon, and in for Alina Young, Mr. Doyle Vermette. Members also appearing this evening are Ken Francis, Delbert Kirsch, Greg Ottenbright, and Doug Steele. Welcome back, and we will now consider estimates and supplementary estimates number 2 for the Ministry of Highways, and we will begin with vote 16, Highways, Central Management and Services subvote H101. Minister Carr is here with her officials, and I would ask officials to please state their names first time speaking into the microphone, and Hansard will turn your mic on for you when need be. Minister, you can introduce the officials you have brought here with you this evening and present your opening remarks.
Great, thank you very much. I am pleased to be here to share some highlights from the 24-25 provincial budget for the Ministry of Highways. Tonight I have here with me my Chief of Staff, Josh Hack, who's in the back row there, and then I have Kyle Toffin, my Deputy Minister, Tom Lees, Assistant Deputy Minister of Operations and Maintenance Division. Right behind me, Wayne Guino, Assistant Deputy Minister for Design and Construction Division. Beside me, Ryan Cossett, Assistant Deputy Minister for Policy Planning and Corporate Services Division. Back here to my left is Carrie Kemp, Executive Director of Corporate Services Branch. And behind me, Dave Monroe, Director of Strategic Planning and Budgeting. The provincial budget provides record investments in our province's present and future, with a focus on education, healthcare, and the well-being of our communities. Saskatchewan's strong economy enables our government to invest in programs and services for our residents that they need and deserve. Transportation plays a pivotal role when you consider these 2 points. First, it's how we safely get to and from services and activities that ensure our quality of life. And second, it supports our province's strong and growing export-based economy. In other words, our government continues to make strategic transportation investments that enhance safety, enhance our citizens to access what they need and enjoy, and support economic growth that keeps Saskatchewan strong. I would like to spend some time focusing on the details. The Highways budget for 24-25 invests $741 million in road safety while improving key transportation corridors continue to meet the growing needs of Saskatchewan's families and communities. It provides $404 million for capital projects. Our government has invested more than $13 billion in transportation since 2008, improving more than 20,700 kilometers of highways across the province. In meeting our Saskatchewan Growth Plan goals, this year we will improve more than 1,100 kilometers of highway, the 5th year of our 10-year growth plan goal to build and upgrade 10,000 kilometers. We have delivered more than 5,900 over the first 5 years of our 10-year plan. That's well ahead of the pace needed to meet our target. Major projects are essential in supporting Saskatchewan's export-based economy. Our shipments rely on timely and predictable access to world markets. Ensuring our transportation network is safe, reliable, and resilient is top priority. We continue to make improvements to strategic transportation corridors around the province. This year, we're investing $56.5 million to continue multi-year projects that increase safety and improve traffic flow. Those projects include twinning and passing lanes on Highway 6 and 39. This is a strategic corridor that connects Saskatchewan to our largest international trading partner. Corridor improvements on Highway 5 east of Saskatoon. This is the corridor that will improve connection to and from our largest city and the largest potash mine on the globe. We will also keep working on a significant safety measures that we've been implementing for several years. A key part of these safety measures will be our ongoing passing lane strategy. We've built more than 50 sets of passing lanes over the past decade. Upcoming projects include Highway 10 east of Fort Qu'Appelle and Highway 17 north of Lloydminster. Planning work will commence soon on other high-priority highways as well. This will continue to improve safety in transportation corridors across Saskatchewan. It will also make it easier and more efficient for shippers to export their products to more than 160 countries around the globe. We are making targeted investments to improve intersection and corridor safety, which enhances road safety. We will continue to make improvements that will help reduce fatalities and injuries, building on our recently completed 5-year, $100 million safety improvement investment program. This year, we will invest $17.6 million through our safety improvement program for improvements in intersections, guardrails, lighting, and other assets. These investments are an important part of our strategy to protect Saskatchewan people and communities. And of course, we will continue to invest in road improvements across the province. Our government understands the importance of these investments in supporting growth and keeping people safe. We've invested more than $13 billion over 15 years to improve more than 20,700 kilometers. This year, we will improve 1,100 kilometers of highways, including 260 kilometers of repaving, 365 kilometers of medium treatments like microsurfacing, 400 kilometers of pavement sealing, 58 kilometers of thin membrane surface and rural highway upgrades, and 25 kilometers of gravel rehabilitation. Rebuilding and preserving over 26,000 kilometers highway network preserves our high standard of living. These improvements also ensure Saskatchewan shippers can continue to compete on a global scale. We also continue to invest in bridges and culverts. We've allocated $59.3 million to repair or rebuild 17 bridges and roughly 100 culverts across the province. The largest of these investments is the replacement of Highway 6 bridges or overpass at Regina's Ring Road. These bridges are the major southern entrance to Saskatchewan's provincial capital and connection to the Trans-Canada Highway. One important part of that project is we're raising the height of the overpass by more than half a meter, which will benefit farmers and shippers who need to move larger equipment to keep pace with industry standards and efficiencies. We hope that will eliminate incidences where their overpass has been hit by overheight loads. Since 2008, our government has made significant investments to maintain and operate the Northern Transportation Network. We will continue our commitment to Northern Saskatchewan in this year's budget by investing more than $73 million. This includes 16 northern airports that we operate and maintain, the ice roads we build in the winter for the benefit of communities and businesses, the Wollaston Lake barge we operate in the summer, and the thousands of kilometers of roads we maintain and connect northern Saskatchewan communities to the rest of the province. This network gives people access to jobs, healthcare, education, and public safety services. It connects them to friends and family and our growing provincial economy, including critical minerals and forestry. Some highlights of this year's northern investment include continued improvements to Highway 155 north of Buffalo Narrows and gravel improvements on Highway 924 south of Sled Lake and Highway 916. We will also complete Saskatchewan's portion of the Garrison Lake Road, accomplishing a long-standing commitment of our government. This road connects northwest Saskatchewan to northern Alberta, improving safety and access to economic opportunities. Our government understands the significant impact our municipal programs have in supporting rural Saskatchewan, which contribute to the success and growth of this province. With this budget, our government is investing over $29 million to support municipal and industry partners making strategic transportation investments. This includes $17.4 million for Rural Integrated Roads for Growth program to improve and maintain rural roads and bridges. This represents a $2.4 million overall increase, with the one-time funding increase of $1 million for capital projects and $1.4 million to operate and maintain corridors for heavy trucks. We're also investing more in our Urban Connector program with $8.6 million to improve and maintain community roads that connect to our highway network. This includes a one-time funding increase of $2 million for capital projects. Connecting our communities is essential in supporting Saskatchewan's economic growth. And we also have our community airport program supporting Saskatchewan's growth and economy. In Saskatchewan, aviation supports tourism by bringing visitors to our province, aids the resource sector by transporting employees and equipment to mining operations, and assists agriculture by enabling farmers to efficiently manage their crops. Aviation also enhances quality of life by connecting air ambulance to rural communities to move patients and providing air services for policing to protect communities. Recognizing this, we will continue to support our community airports. That includes an $850,000 investment in our community airport program to continue support for community airport improvements. When combined with the matching community funds, this is a total investment of $1.7 million to priority local airports. Since 2008, 43 communities have made more than $10 million in improvements under this program. Our budget also includes funding for short-line railways. They are an important connection for farmers and industry to get their products to port. Saskatchewan has 21,000 kilometers of short lines run by 13 operators. Every one of them receives a proportionate share of funding for track maintenance and improvements. They are also an important part of preserving our roads by more efficiently moving heavy bulk goods on our short lines. This year, we're pleased to continue our $530,000 investment for Short-Line Railway Improvement Program for critical safety improvements and operational maintenance work. In conclusion, the Ministry of Highways is proud to play its part in supporting the government's overall vision for Saskatchewan. More people and more jobs provide additional opportunities to invest in classrooms, cares, and communities. We are making strategic investments in transportation corridors and highway safety to support our people and our growing economy. With these investments, we will ensure Saskatchewan continues to be the best place in Canada to live, work, and raise a family, and that all roads lead to prosperity for this new decade and beyond. Thank you. I look forward to some questions.
Thank you, Minister. I'll open the floor to questions from members, and I'll recognize Mr. Weatherspoon.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, officials here tonight. Thank you to all those that are involved in the work of highways and transportation across the province. All of you are involved in a very important undertaking with respect to transportation, our highways, our rail, our short lines, our airports, and so much more. So thank you for all your efforts and all those that are involved in that work across the province. Maybe a bit of a technical question on the financing side just at the start here. When the province borrows money to support the construction of highways in the province, are the funds borrowed matched directly with the highways such that your financing charges will remain the same in the life of the asset? So is the borrowing specific to the project so that the financing will remain the same through the life of the asset?
Thank you so much for that question. With regards to borrowing, our ministry doesn't actually do any borrowing, so any questions regarding how that would happen would be directed to finance.
Just a question with respect to the line here with respect to P3 finance charges adjusted to opening accumulated deficit. Now in 23-24, there was an adjustment of 28 million there, but not in the current year. I'm just wanting to get a sense of what that's all about.
Well, thank you very much for the question. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Cossett to address that for you.
Thanks. Good evening, Ryan Cossett, ADM of Policy, Planning, and Corporate Services. So that is a one-time change. It's a PSAB accounting change from the Public Sector Accounting Board. That value is, I believe it's $28.7 million. It was a one-time adjustment based on a different calculation according to accounting standards.
Okay, thank you. In relation to highways projects that would be P3s, does the interest rate on the P3 financing change or those charges vary over the life of the agreement?
And this time I'm going to turn it over to Kyle to answer.
Kyle Toffin, Deputy Minister. The amount that the province pays the project co in the case of P3 projects stays the same. They're called monthly service payments or annual service payments, depending on whether you're talking months or years. That stays the same. And how much we pay for principal and interest is at their risk. So we pay them a certain amount for operations, maintenance, rehab, and debt servicing. And how they service their debt and how they deal with that is on them.
So within the P3 arrangement, you have your costs that are fixed there, and the interest rate itself isn't a component within that agreement. That's the vendor that takes that risk on.
Yeah, that's essentially right. So they have equity and they have debt on their side, and they determine how best to finance the project. And there are fluctuations, but it's at their risk. So.
If we, you touched on the different components of the resurfacing this last year, or the forecast for the year ahead. Could you just break down again what was completed last year, the various components, the amount of kilometers? So whether that's major, major project, or whether that's resurfacing, or whether that's well, I guess some of the other processes, medium surface, repaving, medium treatment, light and engineered seals, breaking down those components for last fiscal and then the forecast for this year. And then where I would go with it as well is I'd appreciate the price per kilometer that you're working with for both last fiscal and forecasting for this one.
I think I got this one. Okay. So as far as kilometers go and the types of projects and treatments we're going to be doing, we have the major projects like the twinning and the passing lanes. And in 23, 24, we planned 5. We forecasted that we'd be doing 17, and for 24, 25, we're planning for 19. Rural highways, or the thin membrane surface, we're in 23, 24, we planned for 115, and we're forecasting that we'll have actually done 128, and in 24, 25, we're planning for 58. Repaving in 23, 24, we planned for 230. and we're forecasting that we'll get done 192. And for 24-25, we're planning for 260. Medium treatments, in 23-24, we plan for 300. We think we'll be done 321. And in 24-25, we're planning for 365. Then we have the light engineered seals. In 23-24, we plan for 340, and we think we're going to be done 405. And in 24-25, we're planning for 400. Gravel rehabilitation, we planned for 35, and we're forecasting to be done 42. And the 24-25, we're planning for 25. And then you asked for the price per kilometers. So for light seals, there's two types. There's the engineer graded aggregate seal. It can be anywhere from $65,000 to $85,000 a kilometer. If we have the racked in chip seal, it can be anywhere from $80,000 to $90,000 a kilometer. The medium treatments, we also have two types there. We have the microsurfacing, which can cost $90,000 to $150,000 a kilometer. And then we have the thin overlay, which can cost anywhere from $170,000 to $300,000 a kilometer. Repaving, we have three types there. Repaving with a mill overlay, $425,000 to $625,000 a kilometer. Or repaving reconstruction, $1.1 to $1.2 million. And then we have the TMS, the thin membrane surface rehab, which can be anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 a kilometer. For gravel rehabilitation, it can be anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000 a kilometer. With the TMS rural highway upgrade, we have two types of treatments: the strengthened secondary road, which can be $500,000 to $750,000. And we also have the thin membrane surface to primary weight upgrade, which can be anywhere from $1 million to $1.5 million. And then we have our major projects. We have the passing lanes. Per set is $3 to $3.5 million per kilometer. And then we have the twinning, which is $4 to $6 million per kilometer.
Thanks for having that information ready and available. I've got pretty good notes on everything. Can you just give me the gravel number again? I was scratching down the number.
Was it
prior
3
to
to
it. 400 to 600.
400 to 600,000?
That's what I thought. Yeah, I've got it here. Thank you. And could you describe what sort of inflation each of these components have? You don't have to break out each individual one, but just some of the trends that you've experienced over the last 5 years on this front.
Great, thank you for that question. Over the past couple of years, we've seen our projects increase up to 20% approximately. And then just over the past 6 months, as we're watching some tenders and stuff come in, it seems to have stabilized. It doesn't seem to be going any higher at this point in time.
And 20% over the last couple of years, you're saying? And what would you say over like a 5-year period, do you think? Or do you, I'm sure you'd track that.
So over the years, it's been pretty consistent. So it's really just that past couple of years where we've seen that increase, and now it's stabilizing at that level.
So when you say consistent before that, so a lower rate of inflation on the years prior to that, so what would you, so 20% in the last 2, and before that, then were you experiencing 2%, 3%, 4%, 5% annual?
It's not really that precise, but over the past 5 years, prior to the 2-year period we talked about, we had some years that we had dips, actually, during COVID when we were looking for, our industry was looking for work to do. And we did put stimulus on the market at that point in time. So we were getting things like, 2% higher, 2% lower, those kind of ranges. Kind of like CPI would be in that range that StatsCan produces data on.
That's good. Well, thanks for that information. Could you describe what happened with the major projects in the previous fiscal year? You described that 17 were forecast and that 5 were completed.
I don't think he would join the NDP. He'd rather dig his eyes out with a dull spoon.
Chevy had the orange tie today.
Yeah. You never heard the end of it.
Okay. You'll have to get a rural guy organically. See what you know.
Oh, he's so far right, he could be maybe almost left.
You'll right, I'm wrong.
Yeah. Said I'd rather turn right 270, turn left 90.
Who's the most left wing in your operation?
Not Bill.
Hard to say. In this room?
No, the whole group.
Harrison probably.
So I'm not sure if I misspoke or if you wrote it down wrong, but we planned for 5 and we actually finished 17. So we've,
Wrote her down the other way, or maybe you presented it the other way.
it's very possible. But yeah, we just got more work done than we had anticipated, some on Highway 5 and some of the passing lane work.
It's,
I don't wanna make a.
no, thank you. Thank you for that. And what was spent on winter highway maintenance in the previous year? I suspect that nowhere near what was budgeted. And then how were those dollars utilized?
You're comparing 22, 23 to 23, 24?
I was just looking for 23, 24, the previous fiscal year. Yeah.
judge each other by politics. We just get along and get stuff done.
Just like it, seeing if it get,
Well, then the question can go right back at you.
not me.
So I'm just going to provide some numbers here on winter maintenance. 22-23, I'll use that kind of as a starting point. So the budget for that year was 37,237,000, and then the actual was 65,551 in millions of dollars. In 23-24, we had our actual. It's still being worked out. So our budget was 42.237 million. Our actual is in the range of 59 to 61 million. We don't have exactly what that is. We're still closing out the fiscal year. And of course, our budget is $52.237 million in 24-25. And just one additional point I want to make, we have steadily increased this budget since 21-22 fiscal year, which was around 29.7 million. It was $37.2 million in 22-23, $42.2 million in 23-24, and then 52.2 in 24-25. So we've steadily been increasing it. Actually, last year was a jump of about $10 million. So, yeah.
Thanks. And so it actually, so 42 was forecast this year, and it looks like right now the year was budgeted, and it's right now its forecast is closer to 60 million, 59 million. The budget this year is 42 million, which is no. The budget this year is
52.237. Yeah.
okay. So less than was spent last year. No, the auditor's been weighing in on this for a number of years. Has the auditor's recommendations factored into some of the adjustments that have been made on this front?
Yeah, so we have had this come up at public accounts recently, where we did talk about wanting to, obviously increase the budget, which has been done this year to better align to actuals. I think the reality of the situation of our budget, though, is that it fluctuates so much on the capital side as well. So lots of years we'll spend less because heavy rainfall, those types of things. So we have the ability to move money from different parts of our budget to maintain this winter maintenance budget.
It's actually seems surprising a bit that the forecast number is 60 million to be spent in the previous year. By all accounts, it seemed that was in a lighter winter or less snow, but I know there's lots of activities that are involved, so you just question whether or not, if we had a more normal winter next year, question the adequacy of the budget, but in the 50 million that's forecast there. But any comments, Minister?
I would like to just comment on that. I think we might have had a bit of a lighter winter. I would agree with that to a certain extent. But last spring, we had some fairly significant snow events in April and May in different areas of the province, and not just on one occasions. I believe there were 3 separate occasions between the southeast and the southwest. It didn't all happen at the same time. So those significantly affect what happens with our budget. And wouldn't we all like to predict the weather? It would make life much easier for all of us.
The good comments when I was thinking of the winter behind us. You're right. April last year was in this fiscal, and certainly we had snow then. I think everyone would maybe welcome rain right now, but they'd take snow as a second place for moisture right now. Looking at the actual capital budget itself, now it's down $25 million here this year, which is quite a bit. Hey, when you look at where capital budgets had been and the need out there, and then if you build in that inflation as well, knowing the fact that the last 2 years alone it's costing 20% more to build those to build out the infrastructure, so those dollars aren't going real far. I guess, could you speak to, I know many in the industry and those that understand these, the surfacing program and the projects that need to be rehabilitated have really weighed in with, concerns and question with the very limited capital budget and the cut this year.
So I'm just going to go really high level to start with, and then I'm going to turn it over to someone that can get into the details for you. But I mean, the premise of the question is you said that there was a cut, and there absolutely has not been a cut within this budget. We have provided stimulus funding over the past couple of years, which has, I don't want to say inflated that budget, but has added more dollars to that budget. And it did have to do with getting that more work out there, and it was a bit harder to, for contractors and stuff. So we added that extra work for that reason, and they were fully aware at the time that it would not be permanent funding, that it was stimulus funding at that point in time. So that's exactly what has fallen off, and we have a very stable capital budget, but I'm going to let Ryan address a few more of the details within that.
Thanks, Minister. Minister did a really good job. The bulk of the answer is the $18 million for stimulus that dropped off. We've successfully been able to get a lift of $25 million over the last 2 years. That's to our base capital budget. So it had been 340, 341 historically for quite a few years. That's now increased to about 366. And that is our ongoing base capital budget. We've also received inflation dollars of at least $30 million for the last 2 years now in a row. So as Minister said, the difference really when you take out stimulus is less than $1 million this year than it was last year for overall capital. Capital budget this year is about 403.9, and when you take out stimulus, it was just around 404.2 last year. So relatively stable, I would say, in terms of the capital budget and the amount of work that we put on the market.
Just some of the folks that have been examining the budget that are involved in the work as well, just identify, that the, if you go back to 2015-16, your, capital budget's of $560 million, 16-17, $470 million. And so if you then factor in what inflation will have done over that period of time, a period much longer than even 5 years, a $400 million capital budget is significantly smaller in scope and scale, in a very significant way if you factor in inflation. So I haven't heard anyone, characterize this budget as a strong capital budget. I've heard nothing but concerns on that front from across the province. Has the minister heard concerns with respect to the limited capital budget?
Okay, so I just want to, correct the record a little bit with regards to the year 15, 16, and 16, 17. Those were exceptional years because of the Regina Bypass Project and the money that was put into the market because of that. So that was money over and above what's normally spent in a capital budget. If we look over the years, it has been a very stable budget. And you asked specifically if this year I've had any concerns from stakeholders. We had a stakeholder meeting on budget day where we went over the highlights of the budget, and I didn't hear anything regarding concerns. They were thankful for the stability in the budget that we had, and there was no decrease in our capital budget. Of course, they fully understood that stimulus funding was exactly that, and that it would not be there going forward. So, and I haven't heard from anybody since regarding capital budget, any concerns.
Can I understand over the last couple of years that a roughly $25 million hasn't been spent out of the capital program each of those years, and there's a sense that that then contributes to the reduction in the budget in the capital plan in the next year. I guess could you speak to that and why those dollars can't be deployed to projects that are needed? Once a week?
Some of us like just plain chips and stuff.
Thank you for the question, and I'm just going to start off by reinforcing that there are no cuts in this budget. You keep saying that it's down, it's lower, there's cuts. That is not the fact. We have a very stable capital budget, and the numbers actually show that. When we talk about stimulus funding, it's exactly what it is. It's not meant to be there permanently. It was there for a purpose at that point in time, and all contractors were aware that that would not be there in the future, and they're aware of our stable capital budget that we have. And when we put work on the market, we actually, we overcommit. So we might budget $400 million for capital projects, but we put $500 million out in the market, hoping that we get that $400 million actually spent. And this year, we're forecasting that there will only be $9 million of work that doesn't get done out of our capital budget. And there's various reasons why capital projects carry over, such as contractor delays, unexpected project issues, or scope changes. The ministry's primary reason for project delays are weather and contractor delays, both of which pose a unique challenge for the Ministry of Highways. Weather can impact projects in multiple areas of the province at any given time. While weather can result in a delay to the project, it can also result in project work being expedited. Optimal weather was one of the main reasons that the ministry overspent our appropriation in 21-22, so we actually spent more than we budgeted. Contractor delays are not unique to highways, but what is unique is who those contractors are. Unlike vertical infrastructure work that utilizes many contractors across multiple sectors, the province's heavy construction industry are the main contractors for horizontal infrastructure, of which highways is the main proponent.
With respect to, your concerns just when dollars aren't utilized and there's a hope that there could be projects, maybe smaller scale projects that could be, that those dollars could be deployed to be able to utilize the capital program. So that's a call I continue to hear from those that are involved in the building of the roads, and that's why I bring it here again this year to estimates. Thanks to the minister for some of the information that she provided as well. When you're looking at the tenders, what % of tenders actually hit the market on or close to the advertised date?
Okay, so with regards to the tenders that are put out, we work with our industry and we indicate when we think a tender may be out. And approximately just over 80% of the time, we are able to meet that target date within that. But we're just going to touch a little bit on some of the comments that you made. So you can go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, so we do put out fall tender packages, winter tender packages, spring tender packages, and the point of doing that is to let the industry know that things are coming along a certain time frame. Of course, as the minister pointed out, there's around 20% of times when we don't hit that target. Usually it's because of engineering taking a little bit longer, or the project's a bit more complex than we originally thought, and we do update the industry as those challenges present themselves. We are always trying to capitalize on our budget that we have available. And I think you mentioned, why not some smaller projects put out, and we do that, especially for things like culverts, some small bridges that are prefab, maybe those types of things. Maybe, we can get done quicker. And that's one reason why we only underspent $9 million last year. Previous years, it's been, double digits, quite a bit higher than that. So we're getting better, and we're getting better also because we're engaging our industry partners quite a bit more than we would have in the past, mostly our Heavy Construction Association, but also our engineering community.
No, thanks for that information as well. And, I've heard from the industry just that it's quite challenging when there's a delay in a project hitting the market, and just a recognition that that's a real challenge. Could the minister speak to how you go about hear concerns sometimes on communication on that side? Can you speak to how you communicate with industry when work isn't hitting the market in a timeline that's been communicated?
Great, thank you for the question. So I guess first and foremost, we have a pretty open door policy. When stakeholders have questions or want to contact us or have meetings, I don't say no to meetings. I take all the meetings that are requested of me. But with the officials, they have all of their phone numbers and they're able to contact them at any time. More formally, we meet with the Heavy Construction Association on a bi-weekly basis to go over everything that's happening and what's coming up. We have a weekly newsletter that a monthly newsletter that goes out. So there are several different forms of communication to be able to talk with, whether it's my office or the officials. It's pretty open.
Well, thanks for the information. Just hearing concerns, along these lines and bring them forward here. With respect to the 2023-24, what were the advertised volumes or quantities of material tendered versus what the actual volume produced and laid down? And in 2024, what is the advertised volume or quantities of material tendered?
Okay, so hopefully I'm getting you the right numbers that you were looking for here. Within the 2024 budget, the fall tender plan of 2023, excavation was 25,000, granular was 408,200, asphalt concrete was 293,100, and seal coat was 3.56 million. The winter 23-24 tender plan was 20,000 for excavation, 466,500 for granular, and 185,000 for asphalt concrete. And then the spring 24 one was 47,000 for excavation, 84,255 for granular, and 52,920 for asphalt concrete. And I'm going to let someone else answer the question around the end product on how they track what was used. And yeah. Yeah. Just state your name.
Hi, Wayne Guido, ADM of Design and Construction. So we don't actually track each year how much of those quantities are done. What we do is we track the actual kilometers, the accomplishments that we went through at the beginning of the session, because that's really the outcome of the project, right? So that's really what's important. The other part of that is with each of these quantities, some of these are multi-year projects. So we think they'll take 2 years for some of them. The contractor may decide to do them all in the first year. They may decide to split them up between multiple years, but that's really up to however the contractor wants to do that. Right, so we don't track, what that breakdown is year over year.
Okay, thanks. So you have the fall tenders or the spring tender. You have the advertised amount, and but you track the kilometers and the projects, but you don't track the volume produced and laid down.
Correct.
Okay. Move along a little ways here. One of the big irritants, I think, for industry and for many across the province was, of course, the PST that was imposed on construction labor, many other areas as well. Now, of course, highways specifically, this has the consequence of charging, 6% more for projects that are public projects. It really doesn't make a whole bunch of sense at all on many fronts, but certainly on the highway side here, it really defies logic. Does the minister continue to hear concerns on that front as well? And you're charging, of course, 6%, and so that's costing the public more, 6% more. There certainly haven't been those sorts of increases as well to the capital program. It doesn't make sense either way to building it and then paying for it and collecting it.
Thank you very much for the question. This is a policy that, as you're fully aware, that has come forward from the Ministry of Finance. It is something that is not really in the control of the Ministry of Highways. We're following policy set forward by Finance.
I appreciate that. As Highways Minister, do you communicate opposition to that policy?
Well, I think it's fair to say that the policies that is set forward by the Saskatchewan Party government is the policies that we follow.
Okay, I thank you. We won't spend, I can follow up again with the finance minister, and it just points out, I think it really doesn't make much sense, in so many sectors, but certainly not this one. Moving along and looking a bit at the some of the program, I noticed that on the news releases for identifying the Northern program from last year to this year. Last year in the news release that was released with budget, it identified an $89 million budget. This year it communicates a $73 million budget, so a reduction of $16 million for Northern infrastructure. Can you speak to what's happening there?
Well, thank you very much for the question. And I think just to start off with, we don't actually have a set amount for the north, the south, the east, the west. It's based on projects that need to be done at any given point in time. So when we talk about the north, last year, you're absolutely right. We invested a bit more in the north with that $89 million number. And this year it is just over $73 million. Last year we had two significant projects that we decided to go forward with in the north. The Garrison Lake Road at $7.7 million, and then the Sandy Bay Airport at $6.9 million. So obviously those are projects that money was spent on and now they're completed. So that's why you would see, I guess, the difference from last year to this year. But as I said, there isn't dedicated funding for any given area of the province. It's based on need and what has to be done at that particular point in time. But when I look at the numbers for the north, if we go back to 2008 fiscal year, that year it was 46.7 million. And of course, we're already talking about 80.7 million for last year and still doing 73.4 million for this year. So the numbers are up significantly. And since 2008, they have kind of just gone up incrementally over the years.
Of course, factoring in inflation on these projects, it's probably, you kind of have to factor that into to look at these in the proper light. But thanks for the information as well about the projects that were advanced last year. Specific to the Garrison Lake Road, now that highway's now been built out right to the border, Alberta border, is that correct? And can I get an update as to the status of what's happened on the Alberta side?
Thank you for the question. So the Garrison Lake Road, I'll stand a little bit corrected, is 95% done, but is expected to have a June completion date to be done 100%. And as far as your question around Alberta and what their commitments are, Alberta has recently announced funding earmarked for the planning and design work aimed at its connecting road over the next several years. So they have made a commitment to get it done. They haven't said exactly how much they're going to be spending, what that timeline is at this current point in time, but with advocacy from us and from our ministry and the importance of that road, they are going to start working on that. And of course, there are some benefits to getting the road completed. Completion of the Saskatchewan portion of the road allows for easier access to traditional lands, increases the safety for existing road users, and ensures that when the connection to Alberta is made, economic development in the area proceeds, and that the Ministry of Highways is positioned to meet those needs. So it's a pretty exciting project, and we're glad that Alberta has finally committed to taking care of their side.
Thanks for that. It's a project that we've followed up lots over the years. I know the member for Cumberland, it's not on his side of the province, but he's been a strong advocate for this, as well as the previous member for Athabasca long pushed for that road. The concern had always been making sure as well that Alberta obviously is in sync and building out their side of it. Now, you said several years for them to connect their side?
I'm not going to make any assumptions. They've announced that they are committed to moving forward with it, and they haven't put any dollars in yet. So we'll have to talk to them further to see exactly what their plans are, but they have made the commitment.
Okay, I've followed up this critic over the years with the respective ministers previous, and it's rather critical that we're building our road out to the border is one thing, but ultimately it's the flow and the connectivity that's critically important to ensure maximum value of this highway as well. So just continued work on that front to make sure that we're not going to have some sort of a stranded asset and stuff there as well, and that we're getting the full value out of that infrastructure. Now, when I chat with my good buddy, the MLA for Cumberland, he talks lots just about roads, and it's about safety, and it's about people's lives in getting from point A to point B, getting back to family, getting to work. Many goods, of course, that come out of the north that are transported along there as well, that are a benefit to the province. And he reiterates all the time the concerns around safety, and I think that's important for us to have when in perspective when we're talking about the Northern Highways budget. I'm going to kick it over to the MLA for Cumberland, just to ask a couple specific highways questions.
Thank you, Chair. To the ministry officials, of course, our northern leaders are northern people. We want to have safe roads. We expect our government to do that. We have many highway workers, and we know they do their best, and we do appreciate the work that's being done, and they do, to try to keep our community members safe, our grandkids, our kids. But sometimes it's frustrating, too, to watch, because we see industry, and industry is doing amazing things up there. And our Indigenous leaders, our northern leaders, our community members understand, the boom when you look at the economy and the resources coming out of the north to help. And it is positive. We like seeing that, and we want the jobs, and we want to work in a positive way. But we also want to make sure that those big trucks and the roads are safe for families to be traveling, to go south or in for goods. So when I share that, there are some of the roads I know that leaders have mentioned, and we've petitioned, we've asked. I think about Highway 106, I think about Highway 102. Can you give us an update? Because I know for a lot of our leaders, our community members have raised it, and I know others have raised it, and I know we had different times when, through years of petitioning and stuff, we've asked for some of our northern roads to be addressed, and hopefully maybe you guys can give us an update on some of those projects that we've been asking for. And I think you realize for safety should be done. So I'll just wait to see what you and your officials will tell us, so I can bring some good news home to the constituent of Cumberland.
see it too.
Probably at the casinos.
Well, no, he left there. They kicked him off. They still hear crying. They want to play cards with them so they can pay their rent. They're crying at the end of the month, all of them, when I tell them that, he gets mad at me. Don't say that.
It's 5 hours.
Thanks for the question. So I'll just start, and then I'll pass it to the minister to talk about some other initiatives. There's two big projects that just want to highlight in terms of a little bit of detail. So specifically talked about Highway 102 and 106. So we do have work going on this year on both of those roads. 102 is quite a big project, so we're starting this year with a lot of culvert work, but that's almost $1.5 million. So there's a lot of work that's going to start, and then there's a lot more to come in the following year as we do a major upgrade there. So we do expect to get a bunch of crushing done, and then the remainder be completed in '24. And then again, I talked about culvert installations being completed in '24, and then sub-base and an AC in '25. So that's kind of the plan for 102. So significant work there. The other one I'd highlight is 106. There's two sections, particularly of 106 this year, that we're committed to. The first section is north of Smeaton, sort of south the junction to Highway 120. That's $2.3 million this year, and then there'll be probably upwards of $9 million the following year to finish off that project. It's a 2-year project. And then another portion in a little bit further north on 106, and it's $3.4 million this year. So just two projects I just wanted to give a little bit of extra detail about in the north, specifically to try to upgrade those conditions and as you say, improve safety. And then I'll just let the minister speak to a few others.
Sure, and I guess just to highlight some more work that's happening in the north, over and above those two sections that you were asking about. Highway 155, we're going to be doing improvements on approximately 6 sections of that highway between Buffalo Narrows and LaLoche. Highway 924, improvements of 22 kilometers of Highway 924 south of Sled Lake to Highway 916. And then we have Highway 956, Garrison Lake to the Alberta border, which we've just talked about, finishing that off. Wollaston Lake Airport, we're going to be doing some design work for some future runway rehabilitation happening there. Cumberland House Airport, design work for future runway rehabilitation that will happen there. And of course, several culverts or bridge replacements, which as we all know are critical to ensure the safety and reliability of the roadway. Several preservation treatments on pavement such as seals and microsurfacing that extend the life of the pavement, and several safety improvements such as delineation lights to ensure safety along the highway. As well, last year we expedited the sign project north of L'Orange to ensure that we had accurate signage, visible signage, and that it was good signage. And so that's what we would like to highlight for you.
And I don't, Chair, I just, when you talk about signs, I have to tell you this story. There was a sign up there in La Ronge, and it said, I think it was 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers. Anyway, amount of dollars that were going to be spent on the highway. So me and my buddy, we drove to 10 kilometers to say, oh, they're fixing this 10 kilometers. Then we checked with somebody, and I actually made a phone call, and they said, actually, Doyle, we're taking that sign down. The sign went in the wrong location. It was for somewhere else. But anyway, now, having said that, we laugh about that lots of on Coffee Row. But seriously, Highway 102, there's about 28 kilometers of pavement. Well, we call it pavement, some people will call it something else. But is there any chance that, when you talk about upgrades on that, are you looking at upgrading that? And if you are, what exactly are you guys going to do to it? Because it's so bad. Like, people complain the damage is done to vehicles, like just the. I guess I travel it quite a bit, and actually everyone who talks to me says, "Doyle, when are they going to fix this? When's something going to be done? Damage and stuff like that." So I just share that. If you can give me an update on that, are you doing anything with the pavement, the way it's falling apart? That's all. It's crumbling sometimes. So if you could give me an update, that would be wonderful.
I don't bring my case file to the committee.
So with Highway 102, just north of La Ronge, we're actually repaving the full, I think it's 26 kilometers. So we actually have that out. Contractor's already been awarded. So they've done a lot of crushing already this year. They're going to finish that up. Next year, as Ryan said, they're going to be doing some of the culverts and whatnot, and likely doing a lot of the actual road work the following construction season. Depending, of course, depending upon their schedule and that type of thing. But when we look at that, it will be a full reconstruction of that road, right? And I think it includes actually all the way up to the Sucker River there. So it is a really rough piece there, just north of La Ronge.
Yeah, well, okay, so, and will that be in 2025, 2024? Just to be clear, if you can clarify that. And could we do 28 kilometers, not 26? Would it be helpful for Sucker River?
It's an H in the budget to
I tried.
So it is the 26 kilometers. But like I said, it has already been tendered, so the contractor has that, but they've indicated that likely they'll just be doing but they'll be doing the culvert work and a lot of the preparation work, so the actual road work will probably be in 2025. Okay. So now, they may decide to do something earlier, right? This is one of those multi-year projects where they have the ability to do it in either year, so.
Well, hopefully we'll go to 2024, and we can say, good job, see? Anyway, thank you.
Good.
Thanks so much. I'd like to follow up with some of the concerns that have been identified by the Saskatchewan trucking industry. The Saskatchewan Trucking Association has been a really strong voice with respect to the illegal incorporation of drivers that has many negative consequences for the industry and the province and safety. I know the minister has heard these concerns. I've met with the industry as well on this front and have heard these concerns. I guess my question is, could the minister describe the impacts of this activity and what undertakings she's taken on to address it, including what undertakings has she taken on with the federal minister?
any success there, so we could, my project.
Right.
I'll text you a couple projects.
Yeah, you go up north, we'll take you fishing. That's the last time we saw Greg. You can come up to drive the country.
I'll fly to the new airport, improved airport in Cumberland House. It's a long time coming, but it's coming. Call me if you don't let them talk about this, there's nothing else to talk about. Just have to visit over coffee for half an hour.
I'm going to touch on a couple of the key facts on this issue. Of course, the Saskatchewan Trucking Association has brought this up numerous times. We've heard this from the Canadian Trucking Alliance as well, various provincial associations across Canada. Of course, misclassification of drivers is illegal, and it's a widespread problem. And it's all across Canada. It's not a Saskatchewan unique situation. It's leading to unsafe practices, things like human trafficking as well, unfortunately, and also unfair competition in our trucking industry. Under this Drivers Inc. model, as it's called, truck drivers incorporate as individuals without their own truck, so they use the company truck. And that's at the request or requirement sometimes of a trucking company, and they sell their services back to the carrier. Trucking companies do pay lower taxes and avoid providing benefits and other essential protections like workers' compensation and employment insurance because of this approach that they're taking. And so we're taking it quite seriously. The tools and the powers needed to resolve this issue, though, really don't reside with the province. They reside with the federal government. And so we have to make sure that through influence and discussions with Transport Canada and other regulatory agencies at the federal level that we're drawing attention to this. And like I mentioned, the Canadian Trucking Alliance is already doing that on behalf of their association. But despite this appearing to be a very important transportation issue, most federal agencies so far are being sort of standoffish on this. Unfortunately, there hasn't been some real action taken. In Saskatchewan, SGI is, of course, responsible for tracking carrier safety and working with other local and national jurisdictions to address this issue. So we do have a little bit of a role in that insurance kind of side of the coin. We're aware of this issue at Highways, and we understand the importance of it and talk to the Saskatchewan Trucking Association regularly about it. They bring it up every meeting we have, which is usually every month or two. We are working with our federal, provincial, territorial partners at different meetings that we have, both at the minister level and also at the deputy minister level. And I will continue to be bringing this message forward to my deputy minister colleagues, including my colleague at Transport Canada. And our next set of meetings are virtually, I believe, but we'll have in-person meetings this summer as well in the north.
No, thanks very much to the Deputy Minister for canvassing very well the concerns and problems with this Drivers Inc. Model, and the reason that it needs to be there needs to be action to address it. To the Minister, recognizing that a large portion of the levers are federal levers, have you undertaken direct engagement with the federal respective federal ministers on this front, or do you plan to do so in the year ahead?
Well, I think it is fair to say that we will continue to advocate for this. And we just had a federal, provincial, territorial meeting where this was a topic that was talked about. So advocacy was done directly with Minister Rodriguez at that point in time. And all the deputy ministers were there as well. And it is something we will continue to advocate for timely, I guess, resolution to this issue.
Thanks. It's an important file for that action to happen on. Now, most of this is relates to federal regulation. Now, there's some provincial regulation on this front, is my understanding. Could you describe where there's workplaces or that would be provincial domain, as far that where there's some provincial levers?
Your question, Mr. Weatherspoon, might not fall under the portfolio of highways, but it might fall under the portfolio of the minister responsible for SGI insurance and a few of those other areas.
Yeah, that's exactly where we were going with it too. I mean, obviously our main role is through advocacy and influence and working with other jurisdictions to ensure that we draw awareness to the issue. And some of that's through FedProv territorial meetings, and some of it's through other conversations as well, just one-on-ones with my colleague at Transport Canada, for instance, Arun. And you know, it's obviously something that our industry is very concerned about, but the levers do really exist at the federal level with transportation as a area of their responsibility.
Thanks. It'll be a file we'll continue to focus on. With respect to rest stops in the province, the trucking industry as well, and the Trucking Association has really identified that we have a deficit of proper rest stops for the industry throughout Saskatchewan. A couple years back, there had been a commitment to deliver 3 of those rest stops. That never happened at that point in time. I'm just looking to what sort of commitment might be in this budget here and now for rest stops, and then future actions as well.
Well, thank you very much for the question. So I guess I'll just talk a little bit about the review that you were talking about. So the review resulted in a map of all known rest stops, publicly and privately operated, being utilized, which was posted online for operators. So they were aware what's there. Identification of the areas, of the underserved areas were then highlighted. The ministry has since repurposed an old tourist turnoff on Highway 16 west of the town of Battleford for use as a truck rest stop, and continues to look at other opportunities to repurpose locations. The ministry hired a consultant to complete a functional design for pilot rest stop projects on priority corridors. The design work is currently in progress. The ministry is also investigating options for partnerships between the province, municipal governments, nonprofit organizations, and commercial enterprises to help develop and advertise truck rest stops on the provincial highway system. In 23-24, the ministry began work on a truck pullout functional study to determine placement for truck pullouts along Highway number 1 near Moosomin, Whitewood, and along Highway number 7 near Kindersley. In 24-25, the ministry will continue the planning for the placement of the truck pullout locations along our provincial highway system. So as you can see, we've identified those 3 areas. The planning is taking place, and the work will continue.
It's important work. I know it's important to the industry, and it's important to the safety of our transportation of our highways and for all the users of them. If we look at airports and ferries and some of these areas, could you describe or provide the detail on which airports will receive funding from the Community Airport Partnership Program in 24-25 and how much, and then do the same for the year prior, 23-24?
Okay, so I'll start with 23-24 and then go 24-25. So in 23-24, under the CAP program, the town of Birch Hills had a rehabilitation to the main runway and taxiways and install new line markings and numbers on the main runway. And that was in the amount of, the total project cost was $81,830, and of course this is a 50-50 cost share. So the Ministry of Highways portion was $40,915. Town of Carlisle had deep crack asphalt and apron pavement repairs. Total project cost $30,846. Our share, $15,423. Town of Central Butte had a radio control system, and it was $3,250. Our share being $1,625. The RM of Eldon, number 471, crack seal runway, taxiway and apron, and repaint all lines for a total of $31,515, our share being $15,758. City of Estevan had a rubberized crack sealing of all runway cracks, amounting to $16,992, our share being $8,496. Another one with the City of Estevan is to replace lighted runway signs for a total of $9,745, our share being $4,873. The Town of Kipling expanded a taxiway and apron, total of $20,562, our share being $10,281. The Town of La Ronge had an upgrade, a replace of the ATB security doors, install 4 airside automatic doors, 6 groundside automatic doors, and keypad or card swipe security locks for a total value of $120,000, our share being $60,000. The Town of Luseland had airport electrical upgrade, $6,786, our share being $3,393. Town of Maple Creek had a rehabilitation of a small section of the runway for a total value of $47,046, our share being $23,523. City of Melfort had crack repairs on the runway and taxiway, $72,080, our share being $36,040. Moose Jaw Municipal Airport Authority had a rubberized crack sealing on the runway, taxiway, and apron in the amount of $50,000, our share being $25,000. City of North Battleford had an installation of a backup power generator at the runway light. Ooh, I did something.